Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining the Automotive Recyclers Experience podcast. We've got some really special guests on today, and they range from Australian to Americans, from north to south, wherever. So we're going to be talking a little bit about post URG conference. We did the field trip while we were over there, and we've got some really good friends on the call today. We've got JC Kale. JC, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Chris? Nice to see you.
Excellent. Georgia. Hey, Georgia, how you doing?
Hi there.
Georgia was it was the first time at URG. How did you enjoy it, Georgia?
First time at URG. It was great. It was very interesting. Excuse me for 2 seconds. I'm actually just having an issue here. I'm just going to resolve. Sorry, I will be back. I apologize.
Okay. Rob, how you doing, Rob?
I'm doing great. Busy and doing my thing, but I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Very well. 6.5 weeks away by the time I got back. I've been back now just over a month. Settling back into normality, if I can put it that way. But like it was a really good trip through the UK and the US. So enjoyed it, met a lot of people, caught up with a lot of people, customers, friends, etc. So that was really good. Georgia, you sorted things out there?
Sorry. The joys of our time differences mean that we get infiltrated occasionally. URG was great. I really enjoyed it. I think for me, the field trip was the highlight because I got to learn a lot as a first timer. And then it led into a really good event where lots of great people and good seminars and just a good time for me.
Excellent. All right. So today we're going to focus on some of the learnings, if you like, that we got out of the field trip, out of the URG conference, out of talking with people, right? And there were some consistent themes through all those discussions. And I thought it'd be great to get JC and Rob and Georgia on this call. And we can talk to those things, and maybe we can give you something that you can take away and implement in your business today. Because these are things, again, when we do these podcasts, it's always important that we give you something that you can take. And, as you're driving home and listening to it, hopefully you'll learn something and think, okay, well, maybe I can do that in my business. So let's focus a little bit on the field trip initially. We went and visited, I think it was 6 facilities altogether. We went west one day, we went south the other day, and we went west the last day of Orlando. Rob, can I switch over to you first? Tell us a little bit about what you felt were some of the key things that came out of the field trip or the tour.
Circling back a little bit, Chris, you kind of came up with the idea of coming in early, which a lot of people do and do it themselves, right? Some guys will come in and be, JC, you and I've done that for years. We would find a conference, find a few yards, and we would always want to go and see. And I think by organizing it and putting everyone together, I think was kind of the beauty of it, Chris, right? It was, I was very interested to get to know some of the UK guys, right? So I could get that perspective. So I don't think it was, I guess my point is I learned a lot, right? So it wasn't like we were just on the bus driving around and we were talking, kind of doing our things. It's I learned a lot as well. So, and to me, it was the differences, when I first left, being a recycler and went into consulting or coaching. I like coaching better than consulting, but, I was a Northeast guy. And I saw Northeast salvage yards. And now that I've gotten out of it for 3 years now, and I've been able to kind of, I had been to a lot of yards around the States, but not kind of at that level. And it's just interesting to me to see the differences, right, of just the pace or the way they do things. I always have snow. We have a lot more aggressive seasons here in the Northeast than in the South. So when I see dismantling facilities without walls, right, I'm like, what is this? And then I think about the heat and those types of things. So to me, that was the interesting part, is meeting some of the great folks. They're always great folks. They're always, generational, normally families, right? People that have been doing this, and, the one place, the mom and dad are there, and, we're having apple pie, like we're in,
Old South, yeah.
Old South, hoedown here in the old South. And so that part was it's always interesting to me, I should say.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, you know, and until you experience it, it's a little bit difficult to explain, and people don't sort of appreciate the value of meeting people from different parts of the world and applying that experience to your business, right? And sort of saying, okay, how do I take this knowledge that I'm getting? You know, people travel a lot, right? So we Australians, we're a long way away, but we love traveling. We love going to Europe. We love going to the US. We love going to Africa, wherever it is. Yes, they're long ways away, but it's normal for us, right? But we love traveling. We love experiencing those different cultures, etc. This is a similar thing, but it's more specific. It's more targeted to the automotive recycling because it's about automotive recycling, right? But it's the same type of thing in the context of we're learning something that we don't know about. And the reality is we don't know what we don't know until we hear about it, right? And sometimes it's those little bits of information that you get from an American or from an Englishman or from an Irish person or an Australian that helps you sort of build that context around how you can use that in your business. So I think that's really, really cool. Georgia, so you said it's, as we know, it was your first time at URG. We visited a number of different facilities. What was the highlight, if I can ask, from your perspective, or the learning that you took that you think you could sort of share with us?
The thing that I said this a number of times to a few people, but the thing that blew me away, I guess, time after time, and from the moment we got on the bus, was the willingness of the people on the bus, and certainly I think the Americans on the bus, was to share their information. There was complete transparency, or it felt like there was complete transparency. Everyone wanted what I would call a competitor. They wanted to give them all their information and say, this is how I'm doing it. And everyone sort of championed each other and was willing to share and give their I guess advice on what works, their advice on what doesn't work. Here are my numbers, here's what I'm doing. It really kind of blew my mind, because I've not seen that necessarily here in Australia with a lot of the recyclers. I mean, I haven't sat on a bus with them, so I haven't given them that experience, but I generally don't think that's how certainly a lot of industries, and I don't necessarily think that's how a lot of Australian recyclers are operating. But I see that is so valuable for anyone that was on that bus. The information that was being shared, and then it followed through at the event. The information that people were willing to share at the event was really, it's actually really endearing for me, from a female point of view, who's thinking, you know, ideally your majority of fairly male-dominated industry, and what could be a fairly aggressive competitive environment was the opposite. It was a really supportive, lift you up, pick you up, and I really liked that. I really took that. I've talked about it a lot since I've been back, actually. It really affected me positively.
Look, I remember the first time I did a URG or ARA conference back in the early 2000s, and that struck me as well at the time. You know, we were very insular. We were very proprietary about what we knew. Problem was, we didn't realize we were really proprietary about what we didn't know. And, you know, and we didn't know more than we actually knew. We thought we knew a lot more, you know, our little tricks and our little secrets and all that type of stuff. But, and you know what, not a lot has changed, other than the fact that a lot of Australians go to URG these days, or to other conferences in the US, but not a lot, some, you know, the same old handful. Even they that attend those, and this is not a plight on them, it's just a cultural thing, I suppose. We still keep things really close to us. We don't like sharing a lot of that information for whatever reason. And one thing that I've learned in the business that I'm in now with Auto Partner Solutions is that giving information out to people is actually a really, really good thing in multiple ways. It's good because it makes you feel good and you can help them. It's good because it's actually good for your business as well. Let's be real.
Well, that's 101 marketing, isn't it? From a marketing point of view, then you've got to share your IP to build that trust. But then as you share that trust, people will understand. I can tell you how to do a good website. It doesn't mean that you can go and build a good website. But but if I tell you everything I know, you can then make an informed, educated decision and go, okay, yeah, I could go and do that myself, or I can't go and do that myself because I don't understand it, or I understand it, but I actually don't have the time. So I'm just going to outsource that,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that's, yeah, I think it's the same thing, isn't it? You've got to share your IP. And I think that was happening on the bus from the minute. I reckon before we'd even hit the highway.
Yeah.
We
I
were
think while we
already,
were getting coffees, we were
everyone
telling each
was
other.
already just giving numbers, and I'm doing this and I've done that. And it was awesome. I really liked it. Really
JC,
did.
how about from your perspective?
So from my perspective, Chris, I think you said it best. Seeing facilities, picking up small tidbits that how to do this, how do you do that, and thinking of a different perspective. Georgia, about celebrating your IP or sharing IP, sharing your intellectual property. Not everybody knows that term because I probably am not. I appreciate that, but the story I tell people really simply is, I can tell you where the gold is buried. I can give you the map and I can give you the shovel. And a lot of people will tell you there's no gold there. It's over here, right? It's not where I tell you, it's where it is. And that bus ride, I think the first day, everybody kind of not really had their arms up, but they weren't sure how it was going to play. And by the last day, I felt like it was somewhat of a band of brothers. We had laughed, we had a good time. We had shared some good information, and everybody got to know each other, not only being kind of confined on a bus, but got to know perspective and vision. And we saw 6 very different facilities, all with that were all successful, but they were run very differently. We saw a high level production facility that was 300 to 500 cars a month. We saw facilities that were run a little slower. We saw facilities that had a lot of land. We saw facilities that were in different parts of the state of Florida, and a lot of them had a different personality based upon the city that they were surrounded with. So kind of to Rob's point, that each place that you travel to, New York or New England or Florida or the West, whatever, they tend to take on the personality of the community that they're surrounded with. And if one of the facilities we went to was kind of a beachy community, and the facility felt kind of beachy and kind of laid back and chill, and one of the facilities was right in the heart of a really big city, and it felt like it was in the heart of a big city, and one of the facilities was kind of out in the country and in the orange groves, and it felt like we were in the country. So looking at all those things, and they all serviced relatively some of the same markets, and they all did a good job, and they all had a good reputation. The part that I think that we kind of miss, and that's changed in our industry, is that, I am my brother's keeper. With exchange, there was a lot of time where we were brokering parts. Now with the trade networks that have become so empowered within the groups, the RCD networks, the Midwest Runner or PRP networks, we are relying on other people's inventory to sell into our business, do a data tiering or shared inventory. And I think that that's what's brought the level of communication, collaboration, and quality of recycler up. So that's the thing that I heard, that I gasped the most. And the 2 points that I heard significantly was, blue collar labor has changed since the post pandemic. And that blue collar jobs, dismantling and parts pulling, have become very difficult and expensive, and that you need to really work to get that person that's doing rough work well paid, well taken care of, and some of the positions that have maybe been more difficult to fill, whether it be inventory or inside sales or some of the other positions, maybe have freed. There's maybe some more people available. So we've lost maybe some of that get your fingers dirty, hand, tough guy work, and we're changing that model. So that's the real takeaway that I got from it.
I think, a couple of things you said there. The data tiering is something that has really taken off in the US. I know it's been there over the years, but I haven't heard it as much as I have this time, to be honest with you. And I was only there at ARA, 6 months prior to this trip. So the data tiering, I think, has really taken off. And we've got some really big facilities now that are operating in different parts of the US that are sharing their inventory with other smaller facilities. All of a sudden, it levels out the playing field, right? It's like, I've got that much more inventory that I had before, and I haven't touched any more vehicles, simply because I'm tiering it from other big facilities. And I spoke to a few people that are doing more of that now. I spoke to some that are not doing any of it, by the way. But the ones that are doing a lot more of that, yes, their brokered parts have significantly increased, or brokered parts sales have significantly increased. But what they're saying is that their cash flow has eased up a little bit as well, right? So I think that's really important. I want some takeaways. One of the takeaways, I think, for those that are not data tiering, I think they need to be thinking about that. How do I take JC's and Rob's inventory and mirror it within mine so that people buy it as if it's mine? Because I'm getting a particular call from my region. Rob may not be getting that if he's got his own facility, right? So
Absolutely.
It's good for Rob, it's good for me. We're able to move more inventory. And one of the things that I think has been something that I've always said, and I think most in the industry says, we're not the competition here, right? We still only make up, if we're lucky, 10% of the opportunity in sales, out there. Not even. I don't even think it's that. So there's 90% opportunity out there. If we look at it as that, that nice pie that we had at Old South, Rob, we're only a small slither of that pie, right? So if we can help each other say yes more often and fulfill that order more often, more completely, with the right service and the right quality, well, all of a sudden we're going to become a bigger part of that pie. And I think that's where the opportunity is. So whoever's not data tiering and whoever's not looking at building those relationships with their co-recyclers, whether it's really local, traditional competitors or not, I think you really should look at that.
Well, and it's a culture, right? So brokering parts is a culture. So when you're not used to it and then you bring it in, it's different, Chris. So it's different for the salespeople, right? It's the I don't have it, but I can get it, instead of just saying I have it. When do you need it? Right. So it's cultural, right? So I think that's the hurdle for some, right? We're in the States now, but even in the States, as I get deeper out of, JC, you and I both know this, like, when you first start doing this, you're consulting some of the bigger facilities and you're in your friends and relationships you have, and the more popular you become, the more deeper you're going out. And I'm finding parts of the country are different with brokering philosophies and the ability to do that. And they don't know. Like I've said to customers, during, onboarding interviews, who do you tier? And they're like, what do you mean tier? Right. So there's facilities that still don't even know what it is, or there's some that don't utilize it. And just grabbing some yards, Chris, and saying, I want George's and Chris's may not be the answer. You have to really evaluate the people you are tiering to make sure, are we buying the same cars? So, remember, data tiering will do what, Chris? You're the stats man. If all of a sudden I'm data tiering another yard, I'm getting requests for parts I never got requests for before. And now that goes right into where my buying is and all the stats that you can collect to show people to say, hey, you do have a need for a Volvo, so to speak, or a Mercedes part now that you never did, because now you're tiering someone with a different style. So it's not as easy as just let me tier some yards. Is it the right yards? And then what is the culture that you've brought into? And is my team ready to sell, handle, quality control, and distribute those brokered parts?
Yeah. And does their inventory complement yours, or does it duplicate?
Right.
If it duplicates it, obviously the value is less relevant, I suppose.
But again, if you're in a big city, some of the duplication might work.
Yeah.
Right. So again, where are you geographically? What are you doing? How many cars? There's more than just let's bring it all on and it's just going to happen.
Yeah. No, I agree. Georgia, from a marketing social media perspective, obviously you've come into URG a month or so ago. We've done a lot of work with different facilities in different parts of the world. But you were able to see a concentration of auto recyclers, and you spoke to a lot of people there. What did you get out of, where I suppose a lot of recyclers are at with whether it's their website or their email marketing / social media stuff? Sorry, that's a big one.
No, that was a big one. You hit a nerve there. Excuse me. I think there's a general underlying feeling of vibe that most people are on board with the fact that they've got to up their digital, they've got to ramp that up. I think there was a general, you're not getting that resistance in terms of people saying, oh, no, I don't need to know about that. People want to know about it. I think they are genuinely interested. I don't think they're necessarily prioritizing it. And that's the nature of the beast, isn't it? I mean, if you've got sales and you've got marketing, you're making direct. I understand that, and you'll make more sales if you do your marketing well, but it's hard to take time off sales to do marketing. So it's a catch-22.
I think it's that instant gratification, right?
Yeah,
we want
of course
to make that sale now because it's there,
Yes.
and you should, but
Yes.
you should also be investing in your future sales, and I think that's the piece there.
Yes, and marketing's there to support sales, and if you're doing marketing well, you'll make more sales, right? It goes hand in hand. So yes, I think, but I do think that people want that. I don't think there's that resistance that there probably was 5 years ago to people wanting to learn and wanting to understand that. What probably the most blew my mind, and you saw before when you mentioned it, was the email marketing. Is I didn't know of anyone really doing email marketing or using a database correctly, and that worries me. Rob's got a question.
I've got a question. So I don't know the answer. That's why it's my question. But what part of the marketing that we're doing is also branding, Georgia, right? So I may not be getting a direct sale from this today, but I'm creating a brand. I'm creating a reputation. I'd like to know your input and some of your data on that. Sorry, my dogs are starting to bark too. Just like, how important is that part of it, building your brand through that marketing?
Well, it's huge.
I want to add one more question in there, Georgia, at the same time. When you and I had the discussion on the bus, which was, what's the difference between pestering and marketing, right? Where we're trying to, I see emails from people or customers or clients that go to a pestering, and then you had discussed there's people out there that want that email, and just between Rob's kind of branding and pushing and pulling, I guess.
Yeah, of course. Most people want the email, and they want, and I guess, I mean, I'll give you a really good example is that we're talking to a recycler at the moment, and they're paying quite a lot of money for Google ads. They want the traffic to their site. That's what they see value in. They see value in people coming to the site, therefore, and converting, then they get ranked in Google, then they get the phone call, they sell the part, which works fine. But I would question, well, what I'm questioning with them at the moment is, that's great that you're constantly paying for acquisition, though. You're constantly paying to get that new traffic, that new people that don't know you to your site. Yeah. You've actually got auto recyclers are dealing on the phone with X amount of customers every day, and most of them are not getting an email address. Once you give that customer the part, they're gone. You have no ongoing nurturing. You can't stay front of mind. You can't build a relationship or trust with them. And if they only buy a certain amount of parts, you're not building that loyalty with them. So why are recyclers not getting that email address? Hey, I'll send you through that quote, or I'll send you through an invoice via email. Then when you want to go and get that next part, you've already got that relationship. They've got a track record of you in their inbox because they've got an email from you. You get their permission, you sign them up to email once a month, I think is a totally reasonable amount to send them an email. You send them something of value. Pestering, if you're pestering an email, is if you've got nothing of value to add. Yeah. So we go back to that intellectual property, that IP. Share some of your IP. Share something that is of value, of interest to your audience. They're happy to read your emails. Chris has a 60% email open rate on his emails because he sends emails of value. And we only send it to the audience that want to hear from him. If people don't want to hear from him, if they don't open his emails, they'll eventually drift off, and we eventually send them an email and say, do you want to keep hearing from us? Yes or no. If you don't, that's fine. We'll stop sending you an email. I don't want people to receive my emails if they don't want to hear from me, but most people are happy to hear from me if I have some value to add. So you've got to understand, what is the value? What is that IP that I can share that nurtures those customers? Then I don't have to constantly go and pay Google every time I want that customer to come to my website. They've already got me in their inbox, and they know who I am, and they're going to email or call me straight away.
Yeah. Look, I think the cost of acquisition, you hear that often in larger organizations. They talk about cost of acquiring a customer. If we're always looking to acquire new customers, it's really expensive, okay? And it's very opportunistic, right? We hope that they call us or find us on the net and they ask us for the right part that we've got in stock to sell to them. Whereas when we've got customers that have bought from us before, I'm sure we've all heard this, it's cost you 8 times more to acquire a new customer than it is to sell to the same customer again. So why would we not want to nurture that customer? Why would we not want to add value to that customer so that it's good for them and good for us? I mean, it makes sense, right? But again, it's a mindset, and it's a focus on investing in your business for the long term. It's not so much a focus on, I'm going to buy this car, I'm going to make this much money on it in 60 days, I'm going to break even in 120 days, I'm going to be at 80% of my in-stock net sales, and, blah, 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 whatever else it is, right?
And to go to your question about branding, Rob, is that's part of your branding. That's part of your brand story. If you have a good brand story and it all connects, and your branding needs to be staying front of mind so that people will remember you. But part of your branding needs to be, how do you treat your customers? Is it just here's your part, see you later, bye, we don't really care? Or is it following up? I mean, when you get that email from someone says, hey, what did you think of that part? Leave us a Google review if you liked it. It's that ongoing relationship. People are happy to build a relationship with a good service. If they're buying a good product, they'll happily build that relationship. And that's your brand. And people will talk about it. They'll go to a mechanic, say a trade customer, they go to a trade conference. I get my parts from Rob Rainwater. He's great. Love his communication. He sends me really good emails once a month. And then you're having a conversation with someone. Oh, who's this Rob Rainwater? Oh, can you send me his details? Yeah, I'd like a guy that specializes in those parts. I need someone like that. Yep, that's great. That's part of your brand, is that people will talk about you because you've established trust and you've established that relationship. I don't know if that answered your question, Rob.
And
sorry.
I guess too is I'm wondering, could part of that branding be, that people would want to come work for you?
Definitely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I'm putting out there, hey, look what we do, and look how long, Billy Bob's worked here or whatever, and look what we do and what we're about, and charities that we donate to, and things that we always say, I can't get anybody to work, we can't hire anyone. Well, is it that no one wants to work for you, Chris? Right? Because you're a slave driver? I mean, what is that? So to me, part of that branding, that's what I'm asking, Georgia, is that's also another piece.
Absolutely.
I'm asking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you hear about it, and I'm sure you guys have it in the US. Well, you do. The place, the best workplaces to work for, and people want to work for Google because we know that they've got ping pong tables in their offices and there's flexible working or whatever it may be. Or, I always remember advertising agencies, and they just have bars. So on Friday, when you guys Friday afternoon, you're doing this podcast, but you'd be down sitting over the bar doing it because it's in the office. It's there. The drinks are on. So it's the same thing. Tell the story about why your staff enjoy you, and that is your brand. Absolutely. That's part of Google's brand, is people want to work for Google because they know that Google have all these benefits and perks, and staff will love it, and there's retention, good retention. It's all of that you need to sell as part of your brand story. Absolutely.
It needs to be personal, right? At the end of the day, I love your dog, Georgia, by the way. He's so cool. Or she, sorry.
I don't even know what she's doing.
It needs to be personal, right? People need to relate to it. There needs to be something there that is more than just a logo, right? A brand isn't a logo. A brand is what you stand for. It's what the business stands for. People want to be part of a movement as opposed to just a business, a company. And there's millions and millions of companies out there that you can probably get a job at. But there's one place or two places or three places that you can be part of something. And that's what they want. They want to be part of something. So from a marketing perspective, your website's a lot more formal, but how does your social media reflect who you are as an organization? How does it reflect who Rob Rainwater is as the CEO or the managing director, or whatever the case is of that company? That's what they're looking for. And I think that's how you attract people too, Rob. And they're the little things, you're going to think, oh yeah, but I need to advertise to get people. I'm not saying you don't. All I'm saying is become someone that people want to work for because you represent something that they want to be part of. I think that's really important. Again, talk about takeaways, I think that's one of the takeaways that someone can take and start thinking about for their own business. How are they creating, a perception of their business or reality in their business? I shouldn't just say perception. I don't mean that in the wrong way, but how are they creating that brand of who they are, that identity that will attract people to want to come and work for them, right?
And the yards do, when you go to all the yards, obviously, it's all Florida based, so it's all one, but they all had their own identity. Every single yard was so different that we visited. The owners, everything about it was so, and no one was, not from my point of view, I didn't look at any one of them and think one was better than the other, but they were all very, very different. But that's part of their brand. That's part of and those things need to come out online. Those things need to be people need to be able to sort of almost taste that by looking at your website, checking out your social media, looking at your Google reviews, looking at getting emails, which I want everyone to be doing. But anyway.
Well, I mean, one of the facilities that we went to, and even with the spelling, was Old South, and it was OLE, which is kind of an old Florida term. And they take 2 weeks a year. They take the 4th of July week and Christmas week off. So they believe that those 2 weeks are the slowest weeks of the year. They close their business. Their employees get that week off in the 4th of July week, and they get the week off at Christmas. And they basically say, here are the 2 weeks we're closed. Here are the 2 weeks you're getting paid for. Now, how they schedule vacations and all the other stuff is a different story, but they really say, hey, we're going to give you 2 weeks off a year. You're going to get paid for those 2 weeks. And these are the weeks of the year that you don't have to worry about your paycheck. And these are the 2 slowest weeks of the year. So if you think about strategy wise, they're putting most of their employees at the same time. They're putting them at weeks that are slow in the full service space. And they're giving their employees time to spend, that are holidays with their families. So they're family oriented. They figured out a very low cost week to be not available. And are they really missing 2 weeks of vacation, or are they really missing 2 weeks of sales, or they may not be missing anything? So,
and what I loved about what they said was when they empty all the gas out of the cars, and then at the end of the week they let the staff come up and fill their cars up. I love that.
Free gas Friday. Free gas Friday.
I just love that. I think that's that's a story. Customers will like that. People will like that. That's a story that is part of their brand. That they're family orientated and that they have these 2 weeks off and all these things. It's really nice. It's part of it was something I really enjoyed about going to all the yards, was learning all the different little things that they make them tick and make them who they are.
Yeah. So JC, we're talking about branding here, and obviously VinMatch Pro's been out now for how long?
About a year and a half.
Year and a half. So newish type of company. What do you do from a VinMatch Pro perspective? What does VinMatch Pro stand for? I know that I'm throwing you sort of in front of the bus here a little bit.
We came at this with a pain point, and the pain point was wrong part order. And we said, well, how do we solve this one problem? And then from that point, we looked at VinMatch Pro and said, how do we do data consolidation, get all the information to the recycler or to whoever is using our service, that they have the information they need at their fingertips, and what are the things that they need at their fingertips. And we started looking at what our original vision was and what it's turned into are very different, because we had a vision of, hey, we're going to do this because we think it's a cool widget, we think it'll be good, and we really realized there was a gap in the market for this particular information. And then as we have captured more information and more feedback from our customers, we keep building the box bigger. And for us, we sat back and said, how do we solve this one problem? And it's wrong part ordered. How do we solve the part being ordered? Is it wrong ordered by the shop? Did the customer order it wrong? Did we order it wrong? Did we get the wrong interchange? Whatever that is, getting the information so that the part that was correct. And that singular problem in the auto recycling business is about 25% of the credits and returns written. So on $1 million facility, we're talking dollars and cents wise, physical dollars and cents on a 20% credit return rate. You're talking about $200,000 in credit returns. You're talking about $50,000, about a $600,000 possible savings by just having the correct information. And when you think about that, Rob can explain it better probably. opportunity cost lost, customers not taken care of, salespeople working for free.
Yeah.
All those things is what we've kind of chased, and then our customers are fed into the information that we're feeding back.
Okay, so that's the pain point. That's the piece that VinMatch Pro is trying to deal with. How do you feel? And again, I'm just taking this discussion sort of through that marketing cycle. How do you feel that VinMatch Pro portrays that to the market? Do you think that the brand, and it's not just the logo, but do people look at VinMatch Pro now as this is how we're going to fix that problem? I mean, tell us a little bit about how you've done the marketing.
So we started off with just saying the information in one place, searchable, verified, correct, enough data points, mileage history, plate to VIN. We're doing recall history. We're doing rerun history. We're giving everything about that vehicle that we can give to the recycler without going to 14 different web pages, right? That's one portion of it. Second portion of it is saying, how do we more accurately inventory the car, describe the parts, and make less mistakes? Well, it's hard to sell, hey, I'm gonna give you less banana peels to trip on. That's hard to sell. But when you give a salesperson the ability to answer a question at a higher rate and with more confidence on the phone, and we flip the narrative. Rob trains with VinMatch Pro and on some of his training classes and with his teams, and Rob can probably describe this better, but having the information correct up front changes the sales process.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. It builds some of the trust with the customer, but the key point of it, it's as simple, right? Like he said, we're not going to a bunch of different places, right? We have salespeople that are trying to build a relationship, build trust, and sell a part in 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. All these phone calls in this industry. So by doing this and making the process of hitting a key, boom, there's the information. I can show you the information, and I can read a bunch of fancy stuff that you didn't even know about your car that I'm telling you. Right. It just increases that brand all of a sudden, like, oh, they're giving me as much information as the dealer. Right. They're not the junkyard. They actually know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, it's that part of I want to deal with a professional, right? So
well, it's like anything. If you're armed with information, you're building trust immediately. The more you know, and the more you understand what a customer's need is, and by knowing the parts, the trust is there because you're like, right, and you can rattle off information. Absolutely.
Right.
And the speed at which the call goes through, and then the second part of it is the ability to verify for the first time as we've built these trade networks and exchange networks. The salesperson has the ability to verify the competitor's part or someone else's part before they ship it all the way across the country. So they're taking 2 VIN numbers and they're able to match them right now to about 99% accuracy, and we can actually say this matches this by VIN without getting into interchange, without getting into part numbers, without getting into a deep dive about a bunch of stuff that may or may not matter.
Yeah. Okay. I think so, Rob, your point there that you build that trust with the customer because all of a sudden you know more about their vehicle than they do, right? I think that's a really important point, and that's we talk about marketing. That's the best form of marketing, I suppose, to a degree you can do once you've got the customer on the phone, to be able to show them that you know what you're talking about. They embrace that because all of a sudden it's not that junkyard. These guys are pros. They know what they're doing. They know what size. They know what ratio, diff ratio I've got in my vehicle. I didn't ever know. So that's really important, and it helps that sales process significantly. So, Rob, how are your sales classes going?
Everything is well. I'm getting ready to start my 4th quarter or my 3rd quarter here, and I'm booked solid and full and max classes. And I believe I just did the totals. The month of May, I trained $17 million worth of sales through just the salespeople in my classes in the month of May. I think I had 38% of them had their best month ever in the month of May, which JC can tell you May was not a super strong month for a lot of the yards in the US right now, very kind of flattish. So that's been successful. And I think the part for me, Chris, with that is I'm retaining the same people. I've had people that have been in these classes for 2.5 years, right? It's just like I have a group of probably a third of them that are just, I want to be in it every week. I want to just have that push. Or I have a couple groups that are like fraternities almost, right? They're these group of 15, women and men. They get together every week and talk about their struggles. And it's kind of like a chat hour type of thing with them, but it's a support system for them. So I get it from training new people to, just, a frat house atmosphere in some of them. So it's going well. So yeah, everything's fabulous. I have no complaints.
Good. So tell us, Rob, obviously doing this every day, every month, every week, you hear a lot of what's happening out there and you listen to a lot of calls, right? Are you seeing any trends in what's changing with the customer request? I mean, we talk about the customer often does their research before they call us, right? Whether it's they're on socials, Georgia, or they're on the internet doing their Google review stuff or whatever it is, or they're on more specifically on CarPart or on our website, and they know that we've got that, or on eBay, and they know that we've got that part, and they ring us. What trends are you seeing there, Rob? Are you seeing more of that happening, and how are the recyclers, how are the salespeople, more importantly, dealing with that? Or how can they deal with a customer that knows that we've got this and our competitor's got that, or our fellow recycler has that? How do you deal with it?
I think the two biggest things that I've noticed, and one of them was just recent, but number one would be that the biggest mistake that all people selling, recycled parts, I'll say, because, selling, but is the recycler is selling a part to the customer that the recycler wants to sell the customer, not selling the customer what it is that they want. And the majority of the customers that are calling don't understand that there's different options. So I'm really good with my analogies, or I think I am. And all my students make fun of me, and most of them are food related, believe it or not. But I say to them, if I said, JC, let's go to lunch and let's go get a cheeseburger, right? There's the $2 cheeseburger at McDonald's, a $12 cheeseburger at maybe a Five Guys or a higher end fat burger or something. And there's a $45 Kobe beef burger, right? They're all cheeseburgers. Which cheeseburger do you want? So presenting a part to someone saying, what are your expectations of the recycled parts, right? Some people want it to look brand new. Some people just want it to work. So even though I've gotten a call that says, hey, I know you have cheeseburgers, I still need to say, well, what kind do you want, Georgia? Right? You probably want some veggie, black bean, hippie burger or something is what you would want.
No, I want the $2 McDonald's cheeseburger.
Dingo burger.
That sounds amazing.
Dingo burger.
So it's posing that question. So I try to train that the phone call from the tiering or the card part or the whatever is a lead. Okay, I brought you in. We've got you that you need this cheeseburger. Let's talk about which one and what toppings they are, right? Which extended warranties. What are the value? What are you doing? Those types of things.
Yeah.
So and then in a perfect world, Rob, what they could be doing is getting the email addresses, and then they've got that lead forever.
Right. Try the $35 burger next time, right? Try this burger. Here's a coupon, right? Here's
maybe next time they feel like a chicken fillet burger or a fillet of fish or something like that.
They know that you do that because they've had an email from you that tells them you also sell those cheeseburgers, fillet burgers. It's amazing.
I mean,
but look, I think that's really, really important. I mean, you talk about
wrap it up.
Yeah, a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people think that it's all about price. And I was speaking to someone yesterday that we're onboarding as part of the eBay work we're doing, and I asked them, okay, so what warranty you're offering on eBay? Oh, well, 90 days. I said, okay. So we went through the process of realizing, and I call it the process of realizing, not trying to make them understand, but the process of realizing that why aren't I offering 12 months warranty on some of these items? Oh, it's too long. It's too long. Why is it too long? Because what if something, okay, when's the last time an alternator came back? Oh, I got one back 2 months ago. Okay. Why did it come back? Oh, they ordered the wrong one. Well, guess what? It's coming back anyway, right? So how about we change the game here from a pricing deal to a quality deal? If we change that discussion now, and now we're talking about quality, maybe we can charge appropriately for that. So we're selling warranty without selling warranty, right? Now, a lot of people say to me, you can't sell warranty on eBay. Well, yes, you can. Because if you're offering 12 months, or I've got some customers that are offering lifetime warranty now in some parts.
Well, we had that on the bus. We had the lifetime Audi and Evo Volvo,
Yes.
who both had the
Yeah.
lifetime warranties, which was really interesting. And that was part of that conversation on the bus, was the other guys talking to these two about their experience with offering lifetime warranties. And that was a conversation and a chat that was really informative on the bus, listening to firsthand experience.
So they're all selling the engine. It's the same engine, but one's selling a Kobe beef engine, the other one's selling a McDonald's cheeseburger. They're both cheeseburgers, right? It's just how we offer that cheeseburger up, right? It's how we portray that. It's how we market that. And at the end of the day, both strategies can work. And I think from, again, another takeout here, I want recyclers to start thinking about selling on quality and value rather than selling on price, because price becomes a commodity. We're selling commodities then, and commodities either go up or down depending on a whole heap of market influences. We need to start thinking about how an automotive recycler can sell their product and the value they're delivering to their customer. Warranty is one way of delivering that value. Warranty is another way of giving that comfort and building that trust with your customer so that we can get the right money for our parts and not go broke. Jason, what are your thoughts on that?
What the strategy that you guys are talking about, I mean, the discussion is in current recycling space, 90% of the returns are going to come back in the first 30 days. And your base warranty, whether it be 90 days or 6 months, are the majority of the returns. Correct. So if they go over that cliff, that 30, 60, 90-day cliff, the odds of that part coming back are very small. And whether you go from 1 year to 3 year or 5 year, and Chris, you know the statistics as well as I do, on any major repair on a vehicle, most customers sell the vehicle after they've had a major repair. That car's no good to me anymore. Even though they put a new engine in it, even though they put a new transmission in it, they've decided that it needs to be somebody else's. So your warranty
risk
exposure could be significantly less.
Yeah.
And when I think about it, our perspective at Neater, which was the company that we owned, was, can you as a repairer or a customer afford to do the job twice? We're going to make it so for a limited increase in price, we're going to afford you peace of mind. And God forbid something did happen, we got you covered up. We've got the labor covered. We've got the warranty covered. You don't have to worry about this vehicle. And Rob trains warranty sales. It doesn't matter what they use it for. Here's the amount of coverage, just like an insurance policy, that we're going to give you towards this product. And as long as it fits within that coverage, what do you care?
Yeah.
And the odds are going to be the odds of the part or the odds of whatever. And everybody struggles with it because the salespeople want to sell the extended warranty on the part that they know goes bad the most, but they never really want to sell the extended warranty on the part that doesn't go bad very often. So it's when you're able to sell it across all platforms is when you see the true benefit. And when you're able to take care of your customer with no hassle, no headache, and you did get them a component that went bad and you're able to back it up, it's how you recover from a bad scenario. It shows your composure, not how you sell on a good day.
Rob, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, to me, it's branding, right? I'm trying to say to you, hey, I am not a junkyard and I am not just here to screw you, and I'm going to give you your money back if there's a problem. We have to start with that as the perception of most of the customers, right? We want to say we're auto recyclers. We want all these fancy names, right? I've spent 37 years of my life trying to explain to my friends and my family what I do, and I still have to, right? So this is why I'm so enamored by the branding part of it. Is I'm trying to train the salespeople every day. I'm trying to convince my customers I am not a junkyard, and we will take care of you. And we are going to warranty our parts. And if there is a problem, I'm giving you all of your money back. When I go to Walmart, I don't walk in and they say, hey, everything has a warranty, but aisle 5 and aisle 7. Everything at Walmart has a warranty. Everything at JC's Auto Parts or Easy Pull Auto has a warranty. This is what it is. We are here to take care of you, even better than the OE or even better than the remanufacturer. Now, there's a lot of yards that don't play into that, Chris. They don't want that liability because, again, in this industry, from as far back as, we go, no one's making database decisions. We are making emotional decisions. We're not making database decisions. What is my true? I will honestly say, I don't know, but I have a good guess that an engine out of a car that has been bought through an insurance auction, the actual fail rate of that engine being no good is less than 3%.
Very, very low.
In my book. I'm not saying might not have an issue. Bad, knocking, no good, that type is less than 3%. So when JC was talking about the numbers, right? If 90% of the failure rates happen at installation, where you were giving them another one for free anyway, now I only have 10% liability on the backside. If I could get 90 to 10, I'd start that casino. Right? Absolutely. I'll take 9 to 10 to me. So all the back end time I'm selling has to be what? A no-brainer to buy that. It's so cheap, I'd be a fool not to buy it. But we're tangenting here, but it's still a point. So, in essence, Chris, that was my one point. The other point is I see now that I think I have 168 salespeople I'm training weekly. What I'm really seeing is how important the management of the facility and the culture is. Hey, this yard, every one of their guys is 8% warranties. This yard, every one of the warranties are 2%. This yard, the broker gross profit is terrible. This yard, it's crazy. I can now see by combining 168 salespeople's data where I can look at the influencing now and then go to the management and say, how are you getting that?
Yeah.
But, so I'm seeing trending there that, again, back to the culture, right? What is the emphasis at that yard and how important the management and the culture is at that yard to be successful in all these different categories? Those are the two things that have jumped off to me in the last 12 months.
Yeah. So you mentioned 116 there. It's just triggered something here that I want to share very, very quickly about, someone mentioned before, I think it was you, Rob, how much does employing people, okay, that brand, what you stand for as a business, how much does that attract people to your business? And I'll just talk very quickly about what I'm doing in my business very quickly at Auto Partner Solutions. We and Georgia knows, we don't advertise for staff. We don't run any ads for staff, whether that's on Facebook or whether that's on Indeed or whatever it is that you're using. We don't advertise. It's all referral. So everyone that works with us has a friend, has a cousin, has a sister, has a brother, has a husband, or has whatever. So everyone that comes to our door or into our email box saying, here's my resume, I'm interested in working with Auto Partner Solutions, it's everything is referral. I'd like to think that's because we do things pretty well as far as, our culture and how we treat our people and the benefits they get. But that's the reality is that if you can build an environment where your team refer their friends and family to work with you and for you, not only are you building a workforce, you're building a brand in your market that is high value, man. It's
I would also say there's accountability, because if your brother gets you the job, you're not going to stuff your brother up because he's going to clock you one. So there's an accountability there as well, because you don't want to let your brother down, and your brother doesn't want to make himself look like an idiot by saying, I'm going to get my brother in here and he's a real knob. So you need to
feel it.
Yeah. So I think that it's a real
feel that culture.
And that's most people associate and hang out with the same kind of people. Do you know what I mean? Like a mechanic probably has another mechanic friend.
Yeah.
People tend to stick with people that have similar trades and similar backgrounds and similar careers. So I think that that's, you know, there's value in doing that and doing that well. But if you and you can tap into that as a result.
But there's also a culture of family, right? I mean, if you sit back and say, think about your friends group, right? Chris, hey, you got to meet my friend Chris, my friend Georgia, my friend Rob. They're all great people. They're all a little different. They're all in the recycling space. And you want to introduce them because you like Chris and you like Rob and you like Georgia and you understand that Georgia brings this to the table, Rob brings this to the table, and Chris brings this to the table. And we all get along well because we see the value in each difference and you know, excitement, entertainment, whatever that is. And so you bring that into a business and you say, I want to bring in these quality people. At New England Auto Truck, when we owned the company, we had $1,000 signing bonus for people that brought in other people, right? And we did that because we wanted a culture. I wanted a place that Rob could bring his friend, and starting with Rob, when I first started, was like family to me. He knew my father. I knew the owners of the business. I worked with Rob, lived with owner. I mean, it was a fraternity style. It was a fraternal group. And that's how I learned the business, was from almost older brothers, not necessarily managers or owners. And if you remember, Rob, our early days at Jerry Brown's, that's what it was like.
Yep. And like I said, you can feel the culture. Chris, you go to a lot of places. JC, you go a lot. I go a lot. I can walk in the door and I can feel it. Even though they know someone's coming to visit, I can feel it. Nieder always had an upbeat, young, kind of culture. But when Georgia you guys were talking about it, I thought, why are all my friends grumpy old men? Does that mean I'm
I'll be your friend, Rob, and I'm not a grumpy old man.
That's pretty real.
Hold on, I'm not his friend. I'm no grumpy old man.
Colleague.
I'm not his friend. If they're all grumpy old men, we're not friends anymore, Rob.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we've had a good chat. We've gone probably nearly an hour. I know these discussions usually go for a fair amount of time. And if you were a real, I suppose, specialist in the podcast world, you'd probably say, hold on, you can't go more than half an hour on a podcast. Bad luck. I think
we make our own rules here, don't we, in the auto?
If it's interesting, they'll listen. How's that?
Yeah, right? if you're bringing your value and you're sharing your your IP, therefore people will listen. If and you guys are pretty informative. You know a lot. I always learn something listening to you guys.
There you go. So before we finish off, before we say goodbye to everyone and thank them for listening, one key takeaway that we can offer to the listener, what can they take away today, Rob, that you'd like to say, do this tomorrow and it's going to make a difference to your business?
On a management level, which is something, I know we're an hour and I didn't want to get into it. Something else I picked up on that bus, time management, right? As a manager, as an owner, as a GM, how are you spending your minutes during the day, right? I can earn more dollars. I can't buy more minutes, right? So I would say one thing to look at is, where's your time management? Is your time being spent in the most important places? Because on that bus, what did we hear? Everyone's running around 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I'd love to do your idea, JC. I just don't have the time. Georgia, I'd love to do some of your stuff. I just don't have the time, right? So time management to me is the key, right? And it all comes and goes with us. Sometimes we have it really good. But to me, I would sit back and look at, do I have the right people doing the right jobs? Am I getting the best ROI from those people in those positions? And how am I spending my minutes every day?
Yeah, and I think you're right, Rob. I think there's a whole hour, 2 hours, 2 days that
that could be another one.
There's a whole semester of what we can do there.
But would that be a good use of time management?
There you go. But no, the reality is that's a really, really big thing, especially in a small business where we're busy working in the business and doing what we have to do to just open the doors and pay the bills. We often overlook the investment we need to make outside of that operational doing, right? And that's a really important thing. So thanks, Rob. JC.
Mine was looking at some of the things that were anecdotal. I heard a lot of people say this went wrong or this went wrong, and then when we asked the question, well, how many times it went wrong?
Yeah.
And it was very little. They had a very significant pain point on a process or a procedure or a person, and they made very significant business changes off of one bad employee, one bad customer, one bad something, right? You know, so safety is something that we never passed up in any of our facilities. We always a safety first culture. So you can't pass up on safety. But if I had a bad salesperson, it doesn't mean I'm going to get rid of all my salespeople. If I have a bad customer, it doesn't mean I'm going to get rid of all my customers. If I have a bad delivery driver, I'm not going to get rid of all the drivers. And I heard a lot of anecdotal, you know, stories that people told that weren't necessarily their business model. They'd taken a pain point and they had pushed it across an enterprise. And before because it was so painful and it was so engaging to them, they made a business decision based upon one really significant pain point. And that's what I would really try to take away, was looking at the decision as in a global scale of your business, not necessarily in the vacuum of what just happened.
Yeah. And I think a perfect, again, I'm going to talk about the warranty here. Perfect example of that. It came up again yesterday in that discussion I was having with this facility here in Australia, actually. When we were talking about, have you thought about, you know, a longer warranty period, because it actually increases conversion rates on eBay and perception, blah, 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 all the other things. And they kept on going back to that one alternator that came back 3 years ago that cost them $300 when the alternator was only worth $80 or blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, stop. How many alternators have come back? Oh, it's the only one we can remember. So we're making all these decisions around this business because of that one alternator. Let's get over the alternator and think about a strategic approach to how we're going to market our business to our customers that are already calling us. How do we take it the next level? So don't look at the data, analyze it, but don't just focus on that one thing that goes wrong. All right, by the way, you need to look at it across the board and say, how is this going to affect my business? So I think that's a good one. Georgia, what is one thing that you can think of?
Well, I think my big thing was always how blown away I was by how open and transparent everyone was. I think that was really, really hit a nerve with me, and it really will stick with me. And I think more businesses need to operate like that. And I think the auto recycling industry in America should be really proud of themselves of how they're doing that, because I think it's very impressive, and I think it actually helps them all make a lot more money by doing it. But if I was gonna, I guess the other thing I was gonna add on, I guess my takeaway from that is they all need to be email marketing. These guys, I don't know. I didn't really speak to anyone who was doing it. And if they are doing it, they're not doing it right. They're doing it a tiny little bit here and a bit here, and there's no strategy. And I think if they could implement one thing from this podcast from tomorrow, even if they're not, start collecting email addresses. If you don't want to do anything with them yet, but just start collecting them, then get a strategy. But as of yesterday, people need to be getting those email addresses of those customers.
Excellent. All right. So we've been through a fair bit there. Appreciate everyone's time. I hope the listeners that are listening to this on their way home, or they've just gone to bed and they've put their AirPods in and they want to sort of put themselves to sleep, or going for a run. I know Georgia loves listening to the podcast on a run. But yes, thank you for listening. Rob and JC and Georgia, thank you for being on the podcast. As always, very informative and helpful. So, the one thing from me, I forgot the one thing from me. The one thing from me is get out there and go to the conferences, visit different parts of the world, go and see facilities in the UK and Australia, wherever it is, or on the other side of the US, right? Or in Canada, or whatever the case is. Go and see, and you'll learn stuff. You'll meet people. You'll pick up little bits and pieces that you didn't know before. I can guarantee that. So get involved and go and do stuff. We're going to be at PRP, I think, Georgia. We're heading out to PRP in August. I think, Rob, you're going?
Oh, nice. Yep.
I'll be there. But, and like you said, Chris, let's, I think we plan on doing this again next year at URG.
Yep.
And, reach out to Chris. And, if you want to be a part of this, we need to get the list better and quicker and bigger and have more people and have a bigger event.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pre convention.
So
I think from the customer standpoint, we heard from Chris putting this together was great, but we've got Rob as a consultant, Georgia as a consultant in marketing, Chris, you being a consultant in labor forces and eBay and I think that the combination of the four of us was really powerful for the customers that were on board. I got a lot of really positive feedback during and after the ride.
Well, if you think Terry Charlton from the UK, I spoke to him 3 weeks before URG when I landed in the UK, saw that I had just landed on Facebook, and he called me. I'm driving down to Charles Trent, literally from Heathrow Airport, half hour out of Heathrow. He said, Chris, you're in the UK. I said, yeah, Terry, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I said to him, I asked him, are you going to URG? He said, no, I'm not going. Yeah, I'm going, and we're organizing this field trip, and Rob and JC and George are going to be on the bus, but it's not just about going to visit yards. We want to use the time traveling because we're going to be on the bus with one another for probably over the 3 days, a good 6 to 8 hours. So we're going to pull that knowledge, and we're going to use the time traveling to actually talk about stuff that we've either seen, or what about some new ideas? Calvin from iDrive was interested in outsourced sales assistants. So we had a good discussion on that, and we're developing some stuff there around that. So not only is it good to share ideas at the facilities, but one of the things that we did with the field trip was do it on the bus. And Terry Charlton from the UK actually booked. He came. He couldn't stay for URG. He wasn't coming because he had another commitment on. He came just for the tour all the way from the UK. So if you're there, if you're around the corner, if you're in the US, get involved. People are traveling from all over the world to attend these things, right? So it's in your backyard.
Rob's an expensive man to have one-on-one time with, and you can have all that one-on-one time with him on the bus. Yeah,
who wouldn't want to have more one-on-one time with Rob?
Nothing's free.
Troublesome.
Nothing's free, Georgia.
All right. On that note, thanks again. Thanks everyone for being on it, and we'll see everyone soon. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chris.
Bye, guys.
See you later. Have a good weekend, guys.
Bye-bye. You too.
Bye-bye.